Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hello there everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I want to share with you the next video in my series that is all about spellcraft, today focusing in on wreath making. This is a style of preparation that is very similar to hanging herb bundles, but the way that you go about making it is a little bit different. But they are very similar and the use cases are also very similar. I do think that a hanging herb bundle is a little bit more accessible than a wreath. You can really place them just about anywhere, whereas a wreath maybe takes up a little bit more space or might just make more sense in certain areas like on doors or above mantles. But no matter what, they both are very powerful forms of spellcraft, and I'm excited to share this method with you today. As always, this series follows along with my book, The Green Witch's Guide to Herbal Magic, and if you are wanting to follow along in the book with me, you can find this section on page 114. It kind of goes between the next few pages here. If you don't already have my book and would like to have it to follow along with the series or just enjoy yourself, you can find it linked in the description down below. There are a ton of different places you can purchase it from, and hopefully all of the options that are best for you are there. So I'm super excited to dive into this, but before we do, this video is sponsored, so let's hear a little bit more about that. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is a website building and hosting company, and as I'm currently working on putting up a website, it is very exciting to get to partner with them. With Fluid Engine, a next-generation website design system from Squarespace, it's never been easier for anyone to unlock creative design. You get to start with a best-in-class website template and customize every detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. You can stretch your imagination when it comes to online design with Fluid Engine, built in and ready to go on any new Squarespace site. One thing I really love about Squarespace is their flexible website template. You get to get started with one of their professional website templates with designs for every category and use case. Then customize your look, update the content, and add features to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business stands out online on every device and can be as unique to you as you dream. Another thing that I really love about Squarespace is the ease of working an online store. Whether you sell physical, digital, or service products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. So if this sounds interesting to you, go to squarespace.com/thegreenwitch to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring, and let's get back to the video. Alrighty, welcome back. So as I said, today we are diving into how to make wreaths. This is a very accessible style of spell preparation. There are multiple different ways to go about it, and it's one of those really good kind of a little more subtle styles of magic for those of you that like to keep your craft a little bit more on the down low or just don't want it to be so overtly obvious in your home. Wreaths are a very common practice in hearthcraft or home-based magic, and one that I engage with multiple times a year. I usually like to make these spells seasonally to place upon my front door to work as a protector or to bring certain energies to those who enter my home, such as prosperity or happiness. But a wreath can go just about anywhere you please. Like I said, over a mantle or on the hearth is common. They make beautiful wall decorations as well. You can place them anywhere that you wish to place magic. And while they are typically made for something like protection or prosperity, they can be made for really any purpose. It's all about the herbs you choose and the intention that you put into it. You can also make them in a variety of shapes and styles. While it's very common to work with that circular shape, something I usually prefer, you can get creative with it and make it in any way that is pleasing to you. This is in part why wreaths and hanging herb bundles are so related. They are kind of the same spell preparation style, but if you want to go with a classic wreath, there are more steps in how to craft that, or just different ones. So with that, let's talk about the actual crafting of a wreath. To begin, you can either start with something like this, a pre-made base. This is a grapevine base. I typically make all of my own bases, but have realized that I don't always have the time or access to the vines that I like to work with to make a base, so I did finally invest in a reusable one, and I am hoping to put it to use for the first time when I make my fall wreath. You can also make your own wreaths, as I said, and that's typically what I have done throughout pretty much all of my practice, is making my own. No method here is better or worse than another. Historically, I have really preferred to make my own just to have that added bit of connection to the final product that I'm creating. But as the year goes through, I typically make my wreaths out of blackberry vines, and sometimes it's just difficult for me to access those, whereas having a wreath base like this that I have access to all year round quite readily is just going to make my practice a lot easier and allow me more freedom to create. So I've opted for this as something to use every now and again, or as my regular base. I haven't quite decided yet. But if you'd like to make your own, that is also a wonderful practice. So if you're making your own, you will need a bundle of vines or very flexible branches, preferably about 3 feet or 1 meter in length, but a little longer is even better. It does depend on the size of the wreath you want to make, but the longer they are, the easier it is for them to be maneuvered together. Flexible is important here. It's very difficult to work with branches or vines that aren't bendy. You need to be able to bend them fully into a circle. If your branches are a little bit stiff or not so pliable, you can also soak them in water for about an hour at least, preferably overnight, and they will become a little bit more pliable. But you still need to be working with very flexible, preferably either newer growth or something that's bendier like a vine. I am personally very fond of blackberry vines, as I've mentioned, and you probably know if you've been here for a while. They hold very strong protective qualities, and I just find them to be really easy to work with. They're usually very long vines. Their thorns are prickly, but that's part of that protection benefit. Other plants that are good for protection are roses. Really anything with thorns that is always a protective plant. But you can also work with something like grapevines. Grapevines are also protective, and across the board a lot of vines tend to hold protective qualities as well. But any base will work. Those are just some good common ones that are regularly used because they are easy to build into a wreath, and they also house really powerful protective qualities, and typically that's what we look for in a lot of wreaths because they typically adorn the thresholds, front doors, back doors of a home. Those entrances are perfect for protection. So to actually end up crafting it, once you've harvested all of your vines or bendy branches and they are very pliable, if they're either just freshly cut or if you've soaked them overnight, to put them together, I recommend taking one of your sturdiest vines or branches that you have and bend it over and kind of like you're tying a simple knot, and then keep wrapping it around itself. Typically when I am making a wreath, I wrap counterclockwise. It's just easier for my brain. And so once you have that one vine fully connected and a little woven, it will look probably a little wonky. That's okay. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle yet. Tuck in your next vine and wrap that around in that same direction. You want to make sure that you're always going in the same direction of the wreath, just wrapping around itself. Keep tucking in your vines. Typically, I like to try to find the weaker spot. It might have corners in it, and I like to tuck a thicker bit of the vines, the next vines, into those areas to stabilize it. So go through however many vines you have, stabilizing, tucking them in, and weaving in that same direction. and at the same time weaving in your intent for this spell. Once you've run out of vines or have reached a desired thickness, make sure every bit is tucked in where it can, and then you can also go through and trim off some edges that might be sticking out a little funny. I typically do have to do this quite a bit. Then take another moment, spend some time really finalizing that intent for this bit of the wreath. Now, you can hang this up as a single herb spell, just the wreath itself, or the wreath base. Or you can adorn it with more herbs for different purposes, or to embolden the purpose that you have woven into the base of the wreath. That's something that I like to do, and that is why I have this wreath base now that I can just reuse. You're also welcome to reuse the wreath base that you make. Personally, by the end of the season, mine have not really been sturdy enough to reuse, but I am using very thin vines with those ones, so I'm hopeful that this one will have more strength. It feels like it does. If you did weave your own base, you may want to let that dry for about a week before you add additional adornments onto it, but you can adorn it right away. I've done that many times, but you do need to wait at least a week for it to set before hanging it up. If you've waited a week and then added new adornments, then you can still hang it up right away, but you want those vines to be pretty dried and set comfortably in their position. Otherwise, you might get a little bit of a teardrop shape from it, just from gravity as it dries. But that can also be a very cute shape as well. Now, like I said, I do typically like to add adornments, and I do this in the style of herbs. These can be herbs of most any style. I typically would recommend ones that have long stems to easily tuck in. These are currently drying for my fall wreath. But I do personally also very often kind of tuck in loose flower heads here and there, and I do occasionally tie down cinnamon sticks as well, or just tuck them in. Kind of depends on the plants that you're using. Sometimes they can hold these additional adornments pretty well. As with all spells, the herbs that you pick to tuck in should be reflective of the intent that you want for the spell. It can be multiple different ones, it can be one main focus, or maybe two, maybe one to enhance the power. Up to you and what feels right to you and your practice. Wreaths for me are a very seasonal project. I usually complete them at the start of each season where I am. So I also like to use herbs that are of that season as well. But that is very much a preference for myself, and not something that you have to do. Really depends on the purpose of the spell. So if you've decided to add additional herbs, tuck those in, make sure the wreath base itself is dry, and then it's ready to hang up wherever you wish it to be. Like I said, I love it on a threshold. I find them to be perfect protection charms. So that's typically where they go, at least in my household. And then there you have it. The spell will last for a good amount of time. I typically leave mine up for about 3 months, depending on their purpose. You can refresh them or reset them. Typically, I do compost the extra plants, or I will bury them in the earth, whatever is most accessible, just to let their energy return to the earth in a nice way. But making a wreath is a beautiful practice and a wonderful way of working some good hearthcraft and house magic. So I hope you have enjoyed. I will be making my fall wreath here soon, but I'll keep you posted on that. If you are someone who regularly makes wreaths, I would love to hear from you what base you typically like to do, if you like to make your own or use a pre-made one, and any herb go-tos that you have. I always love the inspiration you guys give me. And with that, I think it's time to close out this video. If you can and would like to, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. There I share art, herbal profiles, book recommendations, and monthly workshops. It's a ton of fun over there, and it's really what keeps things rolling over here. So if you want to help support this channel, go ahead and check it out. I also have another channel where I share more day-to-day moments of my life, more magic, herbalism, all of those good things. And of course, I have my book. So if any of those are interesting to you, they're all linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I can't wait to see you again soon.